Kango Crew, Nightmares, Delancey Street, artist, hip hop legend. He's Dane, and I want to welcome him to allhiphop.com presents the library with Tim Einenkel. Dane, thank you so much for being here.
Hey Tim, thank you very much, man, for having me. Greatly
So I'm
appreciate it.
thank you. So I'm gonna kind of at first be a little all over the place, but then it'll make sense, hopefully. Um, so in 1999, at the age of 16, obviously someone you know really well, Kwame, released his debut album, right? The Kwame the Boy Genius, featuring New Beginning. On the track, the man who we all knew and loved. He says in interviews, he said it was very influenced by Slick Rick and yourself. I believe at this time you and Kwame would either come to your studio and watch you guys record, and you guys became really cool then. What do you remember most about Kwame when he first, came into your studio, and what has impressed you since?
Well, when I first saw Kwame, it was basically outside of the window of well, it was before that, but when I had a conversation, it was outside of the window of the attic of Hurby Luv Bug's house because that's where we used to do the music when I first started working with Hurby Luv Bug. Did a song called Delancey Street. And we were working on that song. It's the first song we were working on, and Kwame came by, and he was downstairs, and he was friends with Herbie's brother Stevie O, the boy wonder who's younger, and it somehow we got into the conversation about his name. He said his name was uh, something Big Daddy K, something something, and another, right? It's a long name, and I'm like, so what's your name? He said, my name is Kwame. I said, I think you should get rid of that and just go for that. You know what I mean? So that was our first real interaction. And then after that, he would show up at Bayside Studios and sometimes to watch us work. Herbie with Salt and Pepper with myself, and then later on it was with Kid and Play. But the first thing I noticed about Kwame is his ambition and his diligence. Sometimes I come to the studio for my sessions and he'd be there all alone, figuring it out for himself because he didn't really know how to produce an album, but he was learning as he was going. And I heard some of the music he was making himself, and it was really really great music. A lot of people don't know that Hurby Luv Bug did not produce per se when it comes to making the music on the album. Now he may have helped a little bit with the mixing and things of that sort and getting the deal, but that was the 100% Kwame the Boy Genius putting in his early work right there. You know.
This is for your debut album?
No, this is for his debut
Oh,
album.
for his debut album. Okay, gotcha.
Kwame's debut album, the man we all know and love. It was he produced all the music. Herbie, I think, just helped tighten up some of the stuff in the mix. But for the most part, it was always Kwame in the studio, in there working by himself, building out this project as a 16-year-old.
When did you know? I mean, when you with Kwame, for example, when did you know? Besides maybe it happened on his album, but when did you hear him like kind of fully come into his own as a producer, where you knew he was ready to like kind of something he could do on his own, right?
Yeah, to be honest, him though, at the time, I wasn't even thinking about it like that. He was doing the work at the time, and it was in my mind that Herbie was guiding him and helping. But it would be later, a couple of years down the line, when the album came out and became successful, that we would find out that Herbie didn't actually put his music on that project. It was him. It was just Kwame. So that was my. It wasn't like it was an instant thing. Like I knew Kwame was doing such great work, but he did have me in some of the videos. The man we all know and love. I was in that video as well, and he was directing videos, and he really had a vision for what he wanted to do early on, and that's what I noticed. With the polka dots and just the vision of it all.
I want to, of course, go into your legacy a little later, but I think I mean, in terms of you talk about Kwame knowing his vision and knowing what he wants to do. I think a perfect song that kind of stands out to me, and listening to it when it happened, but also in hindsight, is your track early on, Nightmares. And I think what you do on Nightmares is, for its time, especially in the '80s, is pretty incredible because it's a video and it's a song that kind of takes place as a therapy session.
Yep.
And if we think about today's, and you think about mental health in general being kind of it's something you don't really talk about, right? But I think more and more now today's MCs are talking about it. But back then when you did Nightmares, were you approaching it as kind of almost like a mental health track, and why did you take it on as a therapy session?
That was just by coincidence. And see, I was trying to. What I was doing was I was trying to copy off Houdini,
Hmm.
the Haunted House of Rock. So that's where the inspiration for Nightmares came from, Houdini. And I said, man, I want to make a song like Houdini's Haunted House of Rock, but not Houdini's Haunted House of Rock. I wanted to have more story involved. When you just listen to them talking about the music is playing and say, hey, get out of my way because I don't want to run over you, and stuff like that. Fun. And I thought that was fun. So I was trying to find the angle to bring my story together and just try to find something that would kind of be similar to theirs. And the thing I came up with was Nightmares, and so that was the hook, Nightmares. And then I had to figure out what do you do when you have nightmares. And I didn't approach it from a mental health issue per se, with what was going on in life, but I approached it because I thought that was the best way to get the story
Mm.
across. You know what I mean? And creating the character Dr. Slumber, and her having to interview me and find out what's wrong, and I had to tell her the story, was the best way to involve the listener at the time.
Can you take us into the for you for Nightmares the writing process at the time? And I mean, are you an MC that has to hear a beat first to write around it, or do you usually have the concept that you want and then you find that perfect beat that works with you?
Yeah, that was always my style. I was the type that wrote the rhyme and then figured out what music went to whatever I wrote, and which was kind of difficult many times. But when it came to Nightmares, and as I was writing it, I knew what the music was. I knew what the sound was. I knew what the hook was. I knew everything except for what the drum track was, and that was when I went to Sam Jacobs Jr. He was the actual producer of the song, and he had a DMX drum machine with 99 tracks on it. And I went through there and I found the beat that I liked. And once I found the beat, I said, "Yo, we need somebody to play this, and this." And that's when he called his father, and Sam Jacobs Sr., who was a jazz musician. He said, "Oh, my father could play all that stuff." And he brought his father in, and he played the bass line, and he played the guitar line, and the rest was history. They helped produce it. I didn't know much about producing at the time, but I knew what I wanted.
I want to talk about Kwame again because and this is me going to be all over the place again, but your latest track, Nightmares again, is produced by Kwame and Gordy Groove. And what has to stand out right away as someone who's heard you for a long time is that you've lost the English accent in this song. Why did you for that? Why the change of the why losing the English accent now?
Yeah, so when I did the English accent early on, it became second nature because the group I was in was called the Kango Crew. All
Right.
right, it was Slick Rick, it was Lance Brown, it was Cool Out Ski, Omega the Heartbreaker, uh, and myself. So it was 5 members, and so three of the members were from Jamaica, West Indian, London, descent, and then it was me and Cool Out Ski from Brooklyn. So we had American accents, and the sound of American rap was raw and raw. It was very pronounced at the time. And so when I was learning my craft and honing my craft with the Kango Crew, Rick and Lance and Omega had this slight accent when they rapped, and it came through as an English accent, and they were trying to sound more American. I was like, y'all are bugging out. Y'all need to sound like that. And so as I developed my style, I was developing it with that English accent because it sounds smooth, it sounds suave. When I rocked on stage, it gave me a different ambiance to the crowd, and it just felt good. But as years progressed, and I really got into my career. I've learned this about a lot of artists, and you probably noticed as well. We start somewhere sounding like something, and
Sure.
sometimes later on we end up sounding like something else. Some
Right.
artists have been able to keep their sound from day one to now, but some of us, our voices change, our flow changes, our style changes, and things of that sort. And it was just a natural progression for me to leave the accent out more and more. Because people after a while were getting caught up in that and not really taking in consideration that still the records are dope. The sound
Yeah.
is still the same, the lyrics are still the same. It's still dope, but the accent. Hey, I did a Will Smith. I just changed it up.
Were you expected to? Were you actually expected to have like an English accent? Did people expect you to have an English accent all the time? Like, I mean, like, on the record is one thing, on stage is one thing, but meeting people, after the show or in interviews as well. I mean, was that expected as well, or were you able to change it to what we hear now?
Yeah, sometimes I used to play around with the English accent, and have it in, but yeah, a lot of people was like, with the English accent, I said, hey, that's how I am when I rhyme, man. I'm just like the Beatles, man. When they rhyme, they sound like they're American. When they talk, they sound like they're English. So I'm just the
Yeah.
opposite.
And it's interesting that so I grew up, I'm a kid from Washington Heights. You were born in Queens but raised in Brooklyn. We're both from the birthplace of hip hop, right?
Right.
So you think, especially early on at the time, if you're an artist that maybe you would play that up, right? You would play up the New York, the quote unquote New York accent, but you obviously didn't. You played up, you played this English accent. Was that a debate for you to do? I mean, I know you're part of the Kango Crew, so that was the an influence for you. But did you ever go back and forth, like maybe this is not right, or this is maybe I could go, I don't know, quote unquote further if I just stayed to my my Brooklyn roots?
Yeah, I didn't. I never thought of it like that really early on. I thought it was just really dope. I thought the sound
Mm.
was dope, and I thought that people would appreciate, the sound. I like hearing it coming from the rest of the crew. It was something that we created. It was something that wasn't being done. So I didn't feel no way about it except for it was mine. It was ours. We created. It was our flow. It was our sound. So
Mm.
when you create something, yeah, people can get in your ear and try to make you feel like you going down the wrong path, but you got to remember, what's yours. What's unique about you, and that was unique about my style. I was a Brooklyn kid who could throw on an English accent and rock it very lovely. You know what I mean? So it roll up.
And it goes to the school of thought where, like, like DMC, from Run DMC says it best, where he goes, everyone's rhyming red, you got to rhyme blue, right?
Yeah,
Like, so like it's you just being different, or being standing out in the way that. I want to ask you about Nightmares again, because it's this horror film story about your wedding that turns into this nightmare of a day. It's a great horror film, right? But what's great about it is that you do this guest list that you spit a star-studded affair, and you have like DJ Clark Kent, Jay-Z, Beyonce, the Obamas, D Nice, Nas, Will, Jada, Nicki, Ice-T, Coco, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've been doing this over 40 years, right?
yeah, about 30 something now.
30
1985.
something. Okay, I'm rounding up, but
Take it.
could you imagine, like, did you ever imagine when you started out 20 and now 2021, that you could even have spit something on a track that had this kind of star-studded affair?
Man, when I wrote this song some years back, and my star-studded lineup was more just rappers at the time. You know what I mean? It was Outkast, it was Houdini, Slick was still there. It's just a few of the friends, and it was shorter. And so when I rewrote the rhyme to fit the times, I thought it was only right to do it with so many great people who have come from nothing almost. You know what I mean? Like Oprah from nothing, Beyonce, Jay-Z from nothing. It's like all these people built their stardom and a lot around hip hop to me. You know what I mean? These people that I picked out to me built their lives somehow or another. Hip hop has brought them to center stage. Even Barack and Michelle, I feel like hip hop helped get them into that White House. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying? Oprah, not so much as hip hop, but she comes from nothing for me, and she is like at the top for females. Yeah. You got to have her in there. You know what I mean? But at the time, it was never a thought in my mind that I would spit with so many great people at my wedding, because they were at my wedding. But it was you know, just to be able to do it and give highlight to some of the people that I admire, you know, that from whatever they've done, and people that I know for that matter. You know, D Nice, Clark Kent, you know,
Mhm.
Ice T, P.E. I don't know the Obamas. I do know Jay-Z. I don't know Beyonce. You know what I mean? Will and Jada. I know them. But it you know it just was special to me because now I knew it was going to live forever. But the you know the hardest thing about doing it though, Tim, is that you can't get everybody in there, and it was so many more
Right.
people I wanted to add. You know what I mean? So
Right. It'd be like a 30-minute song.
yeah.
If you were to take let's say three of the names in your star-studded guest list on this track that for you have had maybe the biggest impact, whether you know them or not, on you as an artist, as you as a person, who would those three be?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, start off, you know, first and foremost, it would start off with Slick Rick because
Hmm.
he's a friend of mine. We went to high school. We developed our hip hop style together, and we came up together. So that's a boys to men friend. So he has inspired me. He continues to inspire me. So of course, it would be him. After that, it gets a little tougher because you know there are a lot of great people on this list. Eddie Murphy, I would have to pull him out of there, Murphy, because I met him early on in my career, and he was really blowing up, and he was at the top of his career, his leather days. You know what I mean? His leather on stage days. So and I was going to his house and hanging out. So that was an inspiration as well. And then, you know, it's a toss up after that between anyone that's on the list because everyone there has inspired me in one way or another. But I think if I had to pick anyone on the list, I'm gonna have to go with Barack for that last one, or maybe Oprah. You know, because just the foundations of what they set up for their lives and the discipline they put behind becoming who they are, just like the rest of them. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? Jay-Z and Beyonce, they have the discipline as well. But it's just something about Barack's cool, calm demeanor and Oprah's, you know, never stop, always grow, become better idealism that really, you know, touches me. You know what I mean? So we'll go with those three. All
Nice.
right.
I want to Dane, I want to change direction and kind of start a little earlier on in your career. You know, you mentioned you know, obviously you mentioned your group, the Kango Crew, and you talked about how you guys met up. But how did I guess when you guys got together, how did you know hip hop was going to be that vehicle that kind of was gonna mend you together, be your vehicle that kind of kept you guys together?
Well, I don't think we did know. You know, what I mean, I think everybody was having their own individual hip hop journey. More, some of them more involved, some less involved. You know, I think me and Rick were involved to the same level. Like we were into the fashion side of hip hop. You know, we wanted to look good, be fresh, have Kangos on, Bally's, Wallabies, British Walkers, Playboys, Pumas, and we wanted to style out. That was really our thing. The hip hop part was a way for us, and for me, as I remember, to get girls to notice me. So, you know, I was rapping and girls would notice me. Gear and rapping meant girls to me. So, those are the two things that, you know, brought us together. Rick, Lance, Brown, Kulowski, and Omega, the Heartbreaker. One thing we like to dress fresh. The other thing was that we liked the girls' attention. So creating routines and rapping was the thing that brought us together. As for you know it being hip hop, I don't. I can't say that they all were as impacted early on as I was because from the first time I heard the tapes with you know from the Funky 4+1 More to you know Grandmaster Flash and the Furious and the Crash Crew, I was in. You know, not for
Mhm.
rapping though. I wanted to be a b-boy, you know. I wanted to pop lock and things of that sort. And then when I found that my body ain't work like that, then I went to my art. I fell back on my art because I was always an art student. So I started tagging. But then when I found out I didn't have enough guts to tag on a train, I was like, okay, let me go to the next thing, which was fashion, which was not considered so much a part of hip hop at the time, but to me it was. And from the fashion, it took me into the rap part. You
Mm.
know.
When did you start developing yourself as a, you know, I mean, I think I've read in interviews you talked about how, yeah, you were the last, like of the crew, you were kind of the last one to evolve into an MC or a rapper, so to say. When did you, when you started writing, were you automatically sharing with the crew, or were you kind of writing privately, and then you finally found something like, all right, this is it, this is what I'm going to share with the crew?
No. They were writing the routines. It was early on. It was like 1980ish and 80s, and they were writing the routines. But at that year, I started writing the rhyme, and the first rhyme I actually wrote was the second verse of Nightmares. And it was, I had a blind date with this girl named Anita. The Fever is the place I supposed to meet her. Never been to the Fever, but I heard everybody told me about the Fever, and I figured that's where she's supposed to meet me at. So I wrote about 2 to 4 bars per day, and I'll come back and say, "Yo, Rick, check this out, yo, team, check this out." And like, "Yo, that's dope, man. Where the rest?" I said, "Yo, don't get some more." So I go home and like every night or whenever I would write more and more until one day I came and I had the rhyme finished. And then I just, that was my rhyme that I would say all the time because it sunk in with me. And it really developed, I really developed my true style when I wrote that rhyme. And it's been through some, reworking since I first wrote it, but it helped me to navigate my style and what I wanted to do after that. And I knew it was telling stories because even though stories were big then, with super rhymes and even Spoonie G and even some of the rhyme of Rapid Delight, they weren't really going. Most of the rhymes was about Superman and Lois Lane most of the time. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And so when I met Rick, he already had a rhyme about poker. He was saying his rhyme. He never remembers his rhyme, but it almost sounded like you got to know when to hold and know when to fold them type of thing. And he was playing poker, and he was telling a story. And after that, I'm like, man, you can write a story about anything. And that's when I wrote the Nightmares, not knowing that it would be Nightmares. I wrote Anita the Beast, telling about this scary girl who was chasing me down, who was a dragon.
I want to ask you about the live show, because I think obviously as a group, it's you really have to practice the live show to be an impactful live show, right? I mean, it's and you read stories on, or you read interviews of people remembering seeing you guys perform live, and they talk about like, for example, seeing you guys at the High School of Music and Art in Harlem, in a basement of a school, right? Do you remember, when do you remember these live shows? What was like, how did you guys kind of perfect your craft in the live show?
So Tim, our live show situation, it was a short lived because it was only in high school. It never made it
Mm.
outside high school. So we learned how to be performers in the lunchroom. You know what I mean? But we went to a school of performers because it was music in our high school. So everybody in there was a performer in one way or another, either by artistry or playing an instrument or singing. We kind of flipped it on our heads because we were mostly art students. Well, me and Rick were, and the only two out of the group who actually made records who weren't musicians. The other three were musicians, mind you, and me and Rick are the artists, and we come out and make records. So that's itself. But uh, we just it just goes back to wanting to be noticed by the females. It goes back to that. So everything we did was with flash and flamboyance, and coolness to us. And so when they wrote the routines, we were doing what hip hop was doing early on, and that was the harmony thing. But since we were in a school of music inspired people, we wanted to take our harmonies a little bit different, except for I was the only one who couldn't sing and hold the notes. But I figured it out after a while. But it was just a thing that we just felt comfortable um, creating harmonies because of the music background of most of our crew, and just the vision of seeing what they wanted to do in regards to telling stories. And like I said, I wasn't really telling stories at the time. I was still learning the craft as they was kicking those rhymes. You know what I mean? But I learned quick, and I was on top quick. And before you know it, I was, right there rolling with Rick, kicking
Mhm.
rhymes back and forth and holding my own, after that, it was all history.
I want to know if this is true. I mean, I heard I was reading someone talk about one of these early performances, and someone says that they remember hearing an early version before it was actually put on a record of Lottie Dottie. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, that is a possibility. But it would have been a shorter version, and it probably would have ended different. You know what I mean? And I don't even think it was Lottie Dottie. I think it would. I think it was Indian Chief actually,
Oh,
because that Rick used to kick into school all the time. Where yeah, and they used
yeah.
to be like laughing real hard. I don't think it was Lottie Dottie. It could have been. It could have been, but I remember. I remember him kicking Indian Chief though more than that.
So what happened with I mean, what happened with the group? You obviously you mentioned you and Slick had your own solo work, but what happened in terms of just, I know it was high school, but what happened in terms of like, all right, let's take it to the next level. Let's get a record deal. Let's, go make this thing happen.
I don't think none of us took it seriously.
Mm.
None of us took it seriously except for Rick. Um, we did it as a high school pastime. We never recorded anything. We were the only recording that we may have made in the entire time that we were a group in high school was at graduation, and I think someone filmed it on their high 8 camera or something like that. But we never saw the footage except for one time, and it got lost. But the rest of the group members, we had other plans. I think one was going to the service. The other one, we all were going to college, and Rick was the only one that next year after we went to after we graduated that pursued it. He was out battling rappers and being everywhere. I mean, I was battling rappers in Brooklyn, but I still was doing it just as a hobby. I didn't think nothing of it. Uh, but Rick was the first one to say, "This is what I want to do." And when he hooked up with Dougie Fresh, I was excited for him. I still wasn't thinking about making a record. I was like, "Wow, that's incredible!" That's fantastic. He's my boy, and I was just hanging out. And then, after I met Doug, and I was I think it was McDonald's, and I was hearing Houdini every morning with the that first album, Escape. 5 Minutes of Funk they would play, and I'm unloading the truck, and then Rick put out the actual song, The Show. And when he put out that song, and combined with hearing Houdini, it was over. I was like, I gotta make a record. I can do that. When I said I can do that, and that's when I set out my journey to become an artist.
So did you like? I mean, that's my question. So when did you quit? Like, I mean, did you quit McDonald's like right away and just sit down and start writing, or was it like? I mean, what was the process to obviously
Yeah,
making your debut album, Dane with Fame?
yeah. So when I got my mind set to do the song, a guy named Sam Jacobs Jr. He went to a music high school as well. He was a musician, I think. No, he went to art too, I think, if I'm correct. But anyway, he called me. When he first heard the Lottie Dottie, the cassette tape, he was like, "Yo, Dane, you should do a song, man. You heard Rick? Come on, man. You dope as him. Do it." And I'm like, "Nah, that's Rick, man. Let him do that." You know what I mean? And so, like when in 1985, the beginning of 1985, where they dropped this show as an actual record, and I was hanging out with Doug and them, and I was going to the shows. I was like, "Oh, more girls. I got to do a record now." You know what I mean? And so I called Sam Jacobs and I said, "Yo, Sam, I got an idea." Boom, boom, boom. He said, "Yo, you need to create a hook for it." And I said, "Bet. I'm gonna holler at you when I get a hook." So I remember getting drunk, drinking some old English. I'm in the stairway with my boy Dupree, and I start singing and humming this, nah, and I'm just singing it like that, and in my head, and I like, that's it. That's got to be it. So as I started going to Sam Jacobs' house, and we rehearsed for about a month. The song that I wrote, Nightmares, and I go there like every time. I lay it down, take it home, fix it, come back, lay it again, and then after a while, I said, "You ready? We ready." We went in, laid it in like one take, really, put Nightmares down. The girl was there because I told him I needed a girl because I knew exactly everything. Everything that's there, I knew I wanted it. And I coached her. You gotta act like I'm the most important person you've ever seen. Like you've been waiting to see me all your life, and now you see me. And she went there and knocked out. It's the day. It's like, wow. It was like I was automatically famous when you heard that part of the record, and that's what I wanted. From the beginning of Nightmares, I wanted people to hear it to say he must be famous because she knows him and she's screaming like that. So that it paid off too.
In the beginning of the first track of Dane with Fame, you shout out a few people, Slick Rick, obviously, but you also shout out Hurby Luv Bug. Can you talk about him as a producer, but also, if people ask you what's his importance to hip hop culture and to your career and to your art, what will you tell them?
Hurby Luv Bug. If anybody asks me anything about Hurby Luv Bug and his contribution in hip hop, I would say that Hurby Luv Bug is the first super producer in hip hop to me. Just taking and building artists from scratch, really. A lot of the artists he worked with, or at least honing them. Like Salt and Pepper, that was his group. He brought them into existence. He created the name. He created the flow. He created the idea of them being Salt and Pepper. He's like the first Diddy to me. Where he had his hands on, a management. A management group. He had a production group. He had a record label. He was all encompassed in the hip hop, and he was continuing to put artists out and have relationships with different labels and distribution situations. Hurby Luv Bug's sampling, his production, stacking beats back in the days, and making sounds, and he's an incredible, true visionary. For hip hop, man. And we learned a lot together. I learned a lot from him. Hopefully, he learned something from me. Overall, Herbie is one of the founding production fathers who took hip hop to that next commercial level, to make people know that this was really viable. Just not just we're in the box where they were at, but guess what? Females can really take this thing and blow it up. I mean, he really set a pathway by creating Salt and Pepper, and open up doors for women in hip hop like it hadn't been done since MC Rock, basically.
Mm.
When he started, that was. I mean, after that, and of course, Sugar Hill Sugar Hill record did a lot for females with what they did with Sequence, but I just think what he did with Salt and Pepper was just next level.
Oh, you obviously worked with him. Can you take us into a session with him in terms of like maybe just like pick a track, any track that you work together that really, I think, stands out to you in terms of like, learning, like you said, learning experience for both of you.
So the first song that we did was Delancey Street, and we had to create a vibe between each other at that time. And because the first song, coming off Nightmares, which was a hit record for the most part in the hip hop world. Now I'm working on my next single, and I wasn't working with Sam Jacobs Jr. and Senior anymore, and now I would be working with Hurby Luv Bug. We had to build a chemistry from the first song, and my thing is like the first song in Nightmares, no samples. All right. There's no samples. I didn't want any samples because Houdini didn't have any samples. So I didn't want any samples. I told you I was trying to be Houdini. So when he was the sample man though, and yeah. We had to figure a way to get over my issue with samples, basically. So I wanted to like I'll Take You There is doom 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 doom. No, that wasn't what I used. Oh, it was what did I use for Delancey Street? Well, anyway, it was supposed to be another song that he sampled, but I got it to the point where I made him play everything over and different, where the sample just got lost. Period. You know what I mean? And the song in turn didn't come out as great as it could have been, because I think it was even doper at the beginning when he had more of his imprint on it. So That was the first song. The next song, next time we would start working on the album, and so now Dane was saying the lead song. I knew that I had that song, had the words because I told you I write rhymes without the beat, but I knew I
Right.
wanted to use the President. So I come in and we at the studio. I said, "Yo, Dane saying this is how it goes. I want to use Impeach the President, but I want to use Impeach the President and the bass line though, Herbie. Doom, 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 doom." He like, nah, don't use that, man. Just use the beat and win it. I said, nah, we got to use that. He said, okay, bet. So we went to work, and this is the genius of Herbie. He knows how to find the parts to make them
Mhm.
work. You know what I mean, and not only did he take and Pizza President and use the drum track, he like, nah, not hard enough. Let's stack some other sounds, kicks on top of the kicks, snares on top of the snares. You know, at the time, I don't know how many producers were doing it. I feel like we were the first, but that's all in my mind really, because somebody
Yeah.
had to be. We were stacking sounds, you know, early on, you know, and to make those sounds hard and thump. Um, Herbie just had this way and this patience with the music, you know, to find and take out the jewels of tracks and bring them basically to how he wanted them to be and how they should fit the artist. My flow is, as you can see, is so much different from Salt and Pepper and Kid and Plays. It's more
Right.
of a smooth groove, not so much party per se. And Herbie was, you know, I think he likes doing more of the party thing, and he had to really adjust. I think doing my sound a little bit more. You know what I mean? And then bringing me over into a little bit more of the party thing as well. But you know, I did want my songs to be more party. I just didn't know how to get there, and Herbie was there to help me with that.
I mean, you know, you think about storytellers, right? You think about Slick Rick, you think about yourself, obviously. For an artist like yourself to someone who writes stories, you know, and not stories, and not this is not to say anything else that's wrong with anything else, but like not party tracks for the sake of party tracks, right? Um, when you're writing a story and you're working with a producer like Herbie, uh, how do you ensure that he, I guess, with that whatever beat he's coming up with, how do you ensure that he keeps, you know, with the storyline that you're doing? I mean, is that hard to manage, or I mean, did it eventually become easier over time? Like, I mean, I guess how do you ensure that you're not just like changing it up to like this one big party track?
Yeah, you know, it was Herbie is very collaborative in that, and me and him had a great working relationship. And a lot of times when I came into the studio, other than Cinderfella, I had an idea for the track, you know, and I like Herbie, this is the idea for the track, do your magic. I really can't remember any song other than Cinderfella that I didn't have an idea for when it came to the track. My biggest issue, and we used to fight about this all the time, is that, and I know I think I stifled Herbie a lot, is me fighting to keep the samples out of the songs. I knew that they were going to try to sue us for it, and plus, I want to be Houdini, man. I was
I
trying to
mean,
get samples, man, and that's my biggest thing. But you know, we found the balance though between that, and we had a lot of arguments in there about the sound, but those arguments always led to greatness, you know, and greater things. And uh, yeah, I you know, it was hard though to find a track for Cinderfella. I think that was the hardest one because, like I said, the rest of them I kind of knew what the track was going to be in my mind as I wrote the rhyme. You know, like, oh, I think we can use this to rock this. Oh, I think we can use this to rock that. And if if it came to a point that I really can't remember in because there's only 8 songs on the album. You know,
right.
my first album. So let me see. Dane Fame. I came to the track. Delancey Street. I messed that up because he had a great sample. uh, Love at First Sight. I knew 7 Minutes of Funk was going to be that track. I messed that one up too because I got him to get rid of the sample once again. uh, Keep the Groove. We was on the road and I found that and I had him re-rock that. Nightmares, as you know, no samples. Uh, then what is that? I'm missing a song. a missing song, and then it was Cinderfella. And Cinderfella was the hardest of it all, of the songs of all, because I didn't have an idea. I didn't know what the music was going to be. And as we was working on the album, every day he would come in with a new sample and play it off the record player and say, "How about this one? How about this one? Nah, it's not that. It's not that. It's not that." But I remember it was close to the closing up the album. We were about to go into mixing, and he brought in the Dad's band and he played it, and it said boom. And as soon as I heard that rolling that beat, I said, "That's it, Herbie," and I started rapping over it, and I knew it was a hit. I said, "This is our single right here." So I hope that answers the question.
No, perfect. You mentioned I mentioned storytellers before. Slick Rick yourself, great storytellers. What MCs do you see today that kind of are, I think, out of the same school as you in terms of storytelling? What kind of where's the what appreciation do you have for those MCs that are telling those stories?
So it's not a lot because I mean, it's these eras in hip hop is kind of changing so fast. I don't even know where we're at right now. So
Right.
of course, Eminem is not considered right now, but he's a right now because he's never going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So he's incredible as a storyteller. But if you're talking about the new, or as new, because he's been out for about 7, 8 years now, J. Cole. You
Okay.
know, the first time that when I heard the first time, I think that's the name of the song where he's talking about losing his virginity to the girl. I was like, oh, this cat knows some real hip hop. He didn't listen to Biggie. He listened to Eminem. He's listening to LL and Dane and
Right.
Ice Cube. The great storytellers in the game. You know what I mean? So other than him, I haven't really heard many artists that tell stories, and or maybe I just missed him. But I would love to
Mm.
hear some. I know that for a fact. Mhm.
You mentioned Slick Rick, and you mentioned his and the importance that he had on you, and you guys been obviously friends since high school and still friends today. Um, if I was to ask Slick Rick, uh, what have you what is your importance to him, and how have you influenced him? What do you think he would say?
Oh man, I think it would be that I don't know if I influenced Rick to tell you the truth, except for my swag and my style. Probably he would probably say that I'm not where he got a little bit more of the hardcore, I guess, because I was just Brooklyn and he was Bronx. I lived that. He told the funny thing, Rick. Rick used to come to my crib, and cause my mom used to be always working or something. He's like, "Where are your parents, man?" It seemed like I was just living on my own. But you know what? I really don't know, man. That's a great question. I couldn't answer that for him, man. I would love to hear that answer, actually.
Just call him up afterward and ask him the question.
Yeah, yeah.
In 1995, you released your third and final album, Rolling with Dane. And I imagine as well, someone who could for me personally who can't write a rhyme to save his life, and having someone that who with your talent to kind of walk away, I guess, sort of say from it, must have been a hard thing to do. Why did you walk away?
Um, it was a lot of things, right before I got to my third album, I had come out of depression. All right, so I didn't never think I was going to make any more music because I couldn't write a rhyme to save my life. Well, not for myself. For
Right.
some reason, this is block. I could write a rhyme for anybody else except for myself. But once I got past the block and I started writing rhymes again, and I'm telling stories like Mina and Record Jock and stuff, and I'm back in my flow. Um, the game shifted. The game was on a major shift. It was gang. It was gangster. If you wasn't hardcore, you couldn't really survive. Only a few people on the record labels were making headway at the time, and they had to put the push behind you. I was down with Maverick Records. They did believe in my product, but um, we went about the promotions wrong. The gangsters thing was on tilt. Snoop Dogg was taking over, and the whole West Side, and the West Coast was coming, become a little bit stronger, and that '90s rap, was real, prevalent at the time, and it just felt like it wasn't space for what I was doing at the time. And to be honest, after that album, I kind of lost the I lost the drive basically to do more music in a meaningful way. And it wasn't the music per se; it was the business of music. If anybody tells you in this business, and I know you talk to a lot of people, it can weigh on you, and
Mm.
and it had weighed on me because that's why I went into depression. And once I came out of depression, and I worked on the album, and I went through the process of the album and working with Battle Cat, which was incredible, one of the great producers then and now. And it just got to a point where I tried to figure out what was the most important thing in my life, and it was raising my son and becoming a better person. And hip hop had everything to do with that, but the music business had nothing to do with it. And so I just lost I lost the fever, the fervor, the whatever you call it. I just lost it to make records, to be in the business, to haggle with them and do whatever they was doing in the music business. It became too much for me. I felt like I almost lost my soul once, and doing it again was like, let me come back to that.
Yeah.
I know I did the right rhymes. And that was my mind because I remember running into Chuck D in the airport, 1995. My Rolling with Dane album was out. It wasn't really doing well, and I was kind of feeling it, and we were talking about something, and Chuck D said, "Man, you know what, Dane? Just remember this. You're not like a basketball player, a baseball player, a football player. Your body's never going to give up like that when it comes to rap. You can always rap forever if you want." And I was like, yeah, that's true. I didn't understand it at the time. You know what I mean? It went in and went out, but as years went by, and in 2004, when I got the fever for rapping again and making music, I did another album called Dane and the Great Unknowns, but I
Mhm.
released it independently. I just came back and I started rapping again, and I've been rapping ever since. I haven't been putting out music, but I create songs because it's part of who I am. Making music, it soothes me. It makes me feel good. Even if people don't hear it, I know I created it, and it's mine. So
I mean,
yeah.
that's interesting because you think about artists that battle mental health issues, right? As someone, you think that the art would be that therapy for them, but and as you say, you throw in the business aspect of it, then it doesn't because it's not therapeutic anymore. It's like
Yeah.
you're trying to make a living off of it. So there's actually this increased pressure to make art, to do something. It sounds like what you're able to do is that it's not your it's not your business. It's not it's actually creating rhymes or writing rhymes for the sake of
Yeah.
for
I
the
had to,
love of it. And,
yeah, I had to learn how to separate them, and it took a long time to learn how to separate the two because I was mad at the music and making it, and I shouldn't have been. I should have just been, if I was anything, I should have been unsatisfied with the music business of it and
mm,
never let it interfere with the creation of the music. But for some reason, I couldn't separate it for a long time, and then once I could, it everything like whoa. I was like, yeah, fuck music business. Let's do this part. You know what I mean? Yeah, to the point like I never even tried to pursue getting any of the money that was due to me. That's how much I left the music business alone. Like I didn't even try to pursue that money. I like whatever, you know.
is that a conversation? I mean, with the business part of it, is that a conversation that artists are having today in terms of trying to separate the business side from the art side, or I mean, or is the business side always going to kind of have that same pressure that you experienced it, for example?
It depends on where you are. Right now, I think there's an opportunity for you not to get caught up in that because you don't have to deal with a record label anymore.
Right.
You can put out the music on TuneCore or United Masters or wherever those platforms are, and you can promote and market yourself and create your own. It's a mindset. Some people had the guidance to get them over the hump and get them to the next level. One thing I missed though was I didn't have that guidance. You know what I mean? I didn't have anyone to actually guide and direct me when I fell. I had to get back up on my own. I didn't have anybody to help pick me up. You know, and some people have been blessed with others that came to their rescue, or father figures, or whoever may have been, you know, to help them navigate whatever they was going through. I basically had to navigate it on my own, and you know, it was meant to happen that way because I learned a lot about myself in the process, and you know what I was capable of, what I could do, you know, and where I was going to end up at. And you know, coming through that, it opened up my mind and let me know that I was bigger than just rapping, and that I could do much more than that. So I started writing books and writing scripts and producing films, and full circle, the music is involved in all that. So it's a blessing, you know.
You know, we're 2021, and we look back at what everything you've accomplished and what hip hop has accomplished. And you know, and knowing full well you're a part of this journey of hip hop, this legacy of hip hop. When history is written, and you're in it, what do you want the history books to say about you and your legacy?
Let me see. I think they should say that Dane was one of the greatest storytellers with the dopest hooks too. You know, because there's a lot of storytellers, yes, but none of them got the dope hooks that I got. You know what I mean? I got Nightmares, I got Cinderella, I got Dane with Fame. I got all my hooks is dope. All the stories is dope. So I just want, you know, when it's all said and done, say Dane was fly, fresh, and told a dope story. And at the, you know, started one way but ended up doing it his way, you know.
That's dope. Legend, artist, Dane. It's an honor to have you on allhiphop.com presents the live with Tim Einenkel. I greatly appreciate your time, man, and I'm honored to talk to you.
Yo, thanks, Tim. Greatly appreciate you, man. This has been a pleasure, man. And I got some movies coming in the future, so we're gonna come back full circle, all right, and kick it
Yes.
again. All right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Definitely.
All right.
All right.